Hi there, and welcome to the Unforced Pathway to Sound Leadership. My name is Jody Watkins, and I am here to guide you through this journey of learning how to lead teams, lead yourself, lead your families, lead whoever you're trying to lead, but doing it in a way that is unforced. Before we begin, I would like for you to just take a moment and think about that word, unforced. What does that mean to you? Well, if you look up the definition of unforced, it means that it's natural and we're literally not forcing it. But I want you to think of a time where you might have forced something. And then I want you to think of a time where you didn't force something. What did that look like for you? I'm going to give you a minute because I want you to think about this. We're going to discuss it later, so make sure you stay tuned. You're going to want to take this experience all the way to the end so that we can discuss this later. So remember, we're thinking about a time that's unforced versus a time that was forced, or flip flop if you want to turn it the other way around, forced versus unforced. For me in my life, I'm starting to see what happens, how much greater things can be when I don't force them. But I've forced a lot of things too. So I'm going to give you a little example, okay? When I first started my company, To Be Epic Fitness and Nutrition LLC, I had just received my master's degree in business, healthcare management, to be specific. I had a bachelor's degree in business management. My Air Force career had just completely went away. I had no control over that, or at least I felt like I had no control over that. So what I tend to do habitually, and I still have to work through this, is I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. And that's when I start forcing things. So when I started my company, I really didn't have a great strategy. I didn't have this awesome plan. All I knew was I wanted to be able to help more people. So I began this company as an online coaching platform. It gave me the opportunity to help more people. It gave me the opportunity to work with people who were traveling. It was an app that they could use on their phones. I could build programs and have access to tons of videos that helped them know how to do the workouts that I was showing them how to do. It gave me the opportunity to help people in the area of nutrition, which I'm very passionate about still. I thought it was everything that I needed, but that's when I began to force everything else. When we start a business, sometimes it's, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. I needed a website, I needed a way for people to pay me, I needed this, and I needed that. I never slowed down long enough to really analyze what I was doing. And then later on, I realized, well, I want more people. I want more coaches. I don't want it to just be me. So I forced that. I didn't really know the best way to go about doing that. And it's literally been fail forward fast every single time. When we are operating out of lack, and I want you to listen to this, we will tend to force things. We will tend to go off the path that we are meant to be on. Okay. So let's look at unforced. Hopefully you got a chance to think of, some areas in your life, forced versus unforced. Being here in front of you has been unforced. I didn't force any of this. I was led to this platform. I was led to the founder of this platform who has become an amazing mentor for me. I was led to begin speaking on leadership. I had all that already in me. The issue was I was allowing society to dictate my worth. Now, I want you to think about that, okay? Forced versus unforced. So that's the first thing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me if you haven't already figured this out, okay? I am an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur because I needed to pay bills, okay? So I learned how to be a referral person. I learned how to be an affiliate. I learned how to utilize other people's stuff. I learned how to be a connector. That's why I consider myself an entrepreneur. I don't just do one thing. I am a community leader. As you see, this is where you are. I have had the opportunity to link up with some amazing people on this platform. People who were just leading already. People who have been able to help me be better. I am a published author. My book is Reclaim Your Life, and I have a story in another book called If She Can, and I promise you there's going to be more books because I love to write. I have a ton of blogs. As you see in the community, there's a ton of experiences. I am an Air Force veteran of 15 years. As I mentioned, I have an MBA. I have a bunch of certifications, but here's what I will tell you. I am a lifelong student. And if people choose me, I will be an accountability partner. So I want you to think about yourself. Are you in a leadership role at this time? Are you a leader? If you didn't respond yes to that question, I want you to go through this and reconsider a little bit, okay? We'll get there. But first, I'm going to talk about who I am really. Okay, I gave you all the line by line. This is what everybody wants to see. What got me here? Why I can do what I do. But what I really am is a daughter. I'm a fighter. And I not just physically, okay, that's a picture. Mentally, I'm a fighter. I was able to go to school and get my degrees. I'm a mother, I'm a wife. The first picture, I don't remember because shortly after that picture was taken, my dad left. So I don't remember him. My mom said I was 3 at the time. I didn't know this back then, but him leaving began this thing in me where I began to feel like everyone was going to leave me at some point. My mom passed away in 2009, 3 months before my daughter was born. I was her caregiver for 2 years before that, which is when I got very passionate about learning pharmaceuticals, how they interacted with each other, and learning nutrition. That part of it wasn't to achieve a physical look, it was to achieve overall health. I took it upon myself to do my best to learn whatever I needed to learn and help my mom. Now, what I didn't realize back then is that was actually really creating this this massive leader in me, even more than the roles that I had already played. I had already been a leader in the military. I was an instructor before I moved back to the States, so I was leading classes, teaching them things. So I was already a leader, but this impacted me so much that I got to the point where if something didn't make sense, I would do my best to figure it out. I would research, I would, whatever it took, I would ask questions. I would get myself around doctors and people that knew more than me. Okay? So that's why I'm really this person who just desires to be better and to learn more. I desire to be authentic. So that's what we're going to go into more. Okay? These are the topics of our discussions. We have mindset. Everything that we do starts right here. We must, and I know this firsthand because I promise you, I would not be here today had I not learned this. I would not be standing right in front of you now. We must heal ourselves and overcome that enemy within before we can effectively lead others to where we're meant to go. We must get to know the people around us. This is communication, and it's key. It's key to being an effective leader, because if it's only just about us and what we can achieve, we're negating the definition of a team. There's that saying, there's no I in team. But then people will be like, well, there's a me in team, right? Yeah, there is a you. There is a you. But what about the people around you? Who are they? What did they bring to the table? Do you know? I think sometimes we tend to judge people. We don't mean to. I always say I'm the least judgmental person there is. But we all have these things inside of us that can come out, right? So I want to challenge you when we get to this portion. Not necessarily to be perfect in that area, because none of us are perfect. That's literally obsolete, unless you're the man above. None of us are perfect. So it's not about chasing the perfection model. It's about chasing the I want to be better model. So when we go to judge people, I just encourage you and challenge you to step back for a second. I talk to my daughter about this a lot. She's a teenager, kind of trying to figure it out. So we have these conversations a lot, and I always say, you never know what somebody's going through that day. You never know what somebody's gone through. So we can, negate them, and we can say, oh, they're lazy, or they're this, or, they don't step up to the plate when they need to. But I want to challenge you to turn that mirror around and look at yourself. And I want to challenge you to say, you know what? I want to know why. What's going on in their life? Is there something going on in their life that is making them late to whatever they're late for? For instance, my mom didn't know she had multiple sclerosis for many years. She was diagnosed in 2003. She was going to college at that time, and she didn't understand why she was losing her memory. She went from getting good grades to subpar grades. She lost her ability to write, and she loved to write. And she thought it was arthritis, but it was actually stemming from her brain. So when I look at people and I see maybe what they're not so great at, I want to know what they are good at. Because here's what we often miss out on. We often miss out on utilizing each other's strengths. We tend to focus so much on our weaknesses, on their weaknesses, that we don't see the gifts that are inside of them. And the problem with that is when we don't see those gifts, you better believe they don't see those gifts. Because as we know, we're our own worst critic, right? How often do we look in the mirror and someone on the outside can be like, oh, you look great today. And you're like, yeah, but I look, I've gained 5 pounds. My face is wrinkly. My hair's pink. It's turning blonde. We're always going to look at the negative side of what someone says when it's supposed to be positive. So you can only imagine what happens when you're telling someone negative things. When we talk about overcoming the enemy within, that's what we're considering. Our negative self-talk. So I just want to encourage you to think about the things that you go through on a daily basis or what you have gone through and get to know the people around you. Ask them questions. I'm not saying you have to have an hour-long conversation. But if you're on a team and you're supposed to be working together, there needs to be some cohesiveness. You got to learn each other. The third topic we're going to talk about is corporate wellness. Now, as a health and wellness coach and someone who has been in this space for many years, I know that wellness must be a priority in people's lives. The problem is it usually goes to the back burner because we're so worried about everything else. But what if we were able to implement programs in every big corporation, every corporation that has employees, to where they were allowed and given the opportunity to take care of themselves? You know how many people I talk to that are willing, and I was one of them, so yeah, I can relate. They are willing to keep commitments to everyone else, but they will let themselves down 98% of the time. I want you to think about that and what it does to your mental health or their mental health. If we are constantly letting ourselves down, how can we love ourselves? See, everything starts from within, right? But oftentimes we need that extrinsic motivation, the external motivation, the people around us. Like, I was grateful to be a PT leader in the military at one point, and I loved motivating people because honestly, I didn't take care of myself for a long time. And especially after my mom passed away, I was just grinding it out. I was trying to get into medical. That's a whole backstory, okay? If you want to know it, talk to me later. But I was really grinding it out. I wasn't taking the best care of myself. That tends to happen. So when I finally did get that feeling of, oh, this feels really good. I'm taking care of myself. I feel good. I'm on a routine. And I know that there was some things, I worked on the flight line. So sometimes, the work load was just crazy and we deployed all the time. And so, those routines would often get interjected, right? But it's about consistency, right? So when we talk about wellness, I really want you to think about these places, right? And this is what I talk about in my book, Reclaim Your Life. First, it starts here, right? We got to be intentional. We got to want to be better and feel better, okay? Also, there's time management. How am I going to fit this into my already crazy schedule? Okay. So there's time blocking, there's time audits, there's things that I've done with people on those in those areas to help them out. There's self-care and understanding that self-care is not selfish. It's necessary. Because here's what I've learned along the way. I can't be who I'm meant to be to everyone else if I can't be what I'm meant to be for me. So I have to take care of me first. Okay. So if you think about these things, think about how this ties into retention and productivity, right? If you feel good about yourself, you're going to get more done, right? It's not about just showing up. It's about feeling good about what you're doing. It's about feeling good for the the place that you're on that team. You know, wherever you got put, it's about feeling good about that area. Because your leader found out where they should put you and what tasks they should give you based on your gifts, right? Based on your strengths. Now, that's not to say you should never work on your weaknesses, but that's where other people around you come into play. That's where collaboration comes into play. All right. Productivity, retention. Think about retention. How many people have to leave jobs or careers because they're sick? Okay. A lot of these things can be prevented if we implement these programs that allow for it. Okay. The last thing we're going to talk about is enhancing productivity through support, time blocking, and taking regular brain breaks. That kind of ties into number 3. I talked about it a little bit already, so I'm not going to go too much into that. We must support each other. It's important not to just be like, you know what, that person isn't doing what they're supposed to do. So, screw them, right? We got to do what we're going to do. We're not worried about that person. Well, you should be, because what if that person needs your support at that moment? I'm not saying, this is what I tell my daughter. She's 13 going on 23. Okay. Anybody else got one like that? All right. This is what I tell her. You never know what someone is going through in a moment of time. So it's important to just be supportive. I'm not saying, and this is what I tell her, I'm not saying you had to be their best friend. I'm not saying you got to have a 30-minute conversation and find out their whole backstory and what's going on with them. All I'm saying is let them know you care. Let them know you're a caring person. Okay. For her, they're in these teenage years, and their friends are their friends one day and the next day they're not, and they're at each other's throats one day and the next day they're hugging it out, right? Sometimes that happens in adulthood, right? Is our personalities clash, which is why the DISC assessment is very important. All right, we need to know, what are we working with? What kind of personality we got, right? They don't do that in schools, so you just got to kind of go with the flow and figure it out. But I tell her, I'm like, if you hate someone, right, that's doing a disservice to yourself, because that person's going on with life like whatever. Now, it might get to them eventually, because there's the bullying and things like that they deal with in schools, and that's a whole nother topic. But at the end of the day, it's just about, there's times I'll be out in public and a simple good morning to someone who didn't feel seen all morning can really give them a feeling of, I'm important, I matter. All right. So I deal with a lot of people who are struggling in different areas of life. Okay. I have PTSD. I talk to people that do. I've talked to people that have been, suicidal, have had suicidal thoughts. You never know what you might be able to say that can take that person from I don't want to be here anymore to I matter. And sometimes, I want you to think about this. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, good morning. Not how are you doing? None of that stuff. Just a simple acknowledgement can take someone from not wanting to be here, feeling worthless, to I matter. So, with that being said, I want you to think about those things. We're going to continue this discussion, but I wanted to give you the topics and I wanted you to think about what we're going to be talking about later. Make sure you're utilizing the discussion board. You start some discussions. What are your thoughts just coming from this particular video? What are your thoughts? Do you foresee these things being important? Do you foresee, what does your organization have or don't not have? What would you like to see? You can click on the anonymous button. Nobody will even know who you are. Okay. But this is how we start these discussions because chances are, and 99% of the time, you're not alone. You're not thinking alone. Okay. What happens is we think we are because we allow ourselves to be alone. All right. So I hope you'll use this platform for what it's meant for. And I hope you will start some discussions on your own, ask some questions, get some support, vent if you need a vent. Okay. What do you like? What do you not like? Because also that's going to help me. It's going to help me see, what are corporations actually missing out there? I've only seen a little piece. All right. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for watching this video. I know it's been a little bit long, but I hope you will continue through and allow us to go on this journey together. All right. Have a great one.